Hello everybody, here we are today and we're going to be doing my Week 13 CFL picks, getting on into what could happen this week. Now before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So last week I went 2-2 in a year that hasn't been kind to me as I'm still trying to claw my way back to being 500 or better. And this week we're hoping to kick off things with a little bit better of a start. As you're seeing, the BC Lions host the Ottawa Redblacks. This one is interesting and I'm invested as a Lions fan. And they are winless over the past 5 games. Things are odd because at one point we said 5-1 and now we're 5-6. And for a team that I really did feel like was going to possibly go out there and compete for the top spot out west, it's weird knowing we could be, but it's also weird knowing we could theoretically go out there and do it with a losing record. On the flip side, you have the Ottawa Redblacks that just played BC last week and picked up a victory. They have not lost in their past 6 games. They are 5-0-1 in that span and are sitting themselves in a great spot right now to, at the very least, make the playoffs, as it looks like it's set. And I'm not saying that it's going to be a lock, but this Ottawa side has been able to get to 7 wins, even if they limp their way towards the end of the season and just picked up 2 wins over their final stretch of games. They're going to be more than all right. And in this case, you're hoping to beat up on a BC team that you would have expected at the start of the year to be beating Ottawa. The offense hasn't really lived up to the potential. The defense has had issues. Obviously, Vern's going down with an injury. Now Rourke's back in. All of these things happening for a year where I just really feel lost as to what's going to happen. And as a Lions fan, I want us to make the playoffs, but my aspirations aren't just to make the playoffs anymore. Meanwhile, Ottawa is ecstatic with what they've got going for them. A good season where it looks like they're going to have a winning record and a playoff appearance are probably all about they're looking to have. And they could go out there and probably ask for even more. They've got guys like Nick Marner who had 2 touchdowns last week and just are a great team to be rooting for right now. This case, as a Lions fan, this is 100% biased here. I'm backing them to keep back to 500 because if we lose back-to-back weeks to Ottawa and lose 6 straight, we don't really deserve to be a playoff team. We probably are still going to go out there and do it, but either way, I'm looking at this and seeing a team that has underwhelmed. Now, as for the second game, I think we get the best matchup in the CFL. As you see, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers traveling over to Saskatchewan to play the Rough Riders. The Riders are in not a great spot, much like BC, as they are winless over the past 5 games. They are 0-4-1, haven't picked up a W since the middle of July, and have seen their good start to the year kind of diminish out west in the standings, and that is not great. Meanwhile, they play a team in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that is an arch rival for them that kicked off the year going 0-4. Zach Collaros didn't have a passing touchdown in his first 3 games, and this team looked lost, like they weren't even going to go out there and make the playoffs. Fast forward after this, and they are now 5-2 over their past 7 games, and are a team that's been able to get it done defensively. They can pound the rock. You're still hoping to find a little bit more of a connection there for Collaros, maybe get more of the passing touchdowns, as I think they have less intent at this stage of the season, and now you're hoping to play a Saskatchewan defense and get the better of them, even though at times Saskatchewan's defense has looked really, really good this year. Kind of the case of, can Winnipeg's offense beat Saskatchewan's defense? I think is what's going to be deciding this game. I don't know. I'm just hoping that it is a close one, and I think with these 2 teams, it very well could be. Whoever wins this now is going to be in a great spot to go out there and possibly claim the division, even though we're getting ahead of ourselves. Before this one, I'm going to pick Winnipeg to get the road win. And as is the case with Labor Day weekend, we get beautiful matchups in the CFL in terms of rivalries as Toronto plays the Hamilton Tiger Cats. This one is really more so just for Toronto. At this stage, I am saying Hamilton's season is done. They sit at 2-9. I think they've lost 4 in a row and are just a team that can't beat other teams. They might get some wins or some losses, I should say, that are close, but there is a gap, and it's pretty clear at the moment that Hamilton is not there with the rest of the teams that are playoff-worthy sides. In a weird spot where they're 6-4. At times they've looked good, other times they haven't looked that great, and even games that they've won aren't that convincing. Then, of course, last week you get the walk-off Rouge, which is very CFL-esque. I'm glad that I didn't show any of my buddies this game as their first CFL game, because if they thought of rooting for the Rough Riders, they probably would have said, well, I'm not a huge fan of how that works. Either way, though, Toronto picked up the win, and they're looking to pick up another one here against Hamilton. The rivalry is good, but with Chad Kelly being back and Toronto just being in a better spot for the year, I think they're going to go out there and pick up the win here in this one. But it'd be a great time for Hamilton to be able to get the upset. Their opportunity to be the 3 seed out east is probably done and dusted, but at the same time too, might as well spoil the party for Toronto. Not saying that this will happen, but the possibility for the crossover is still there if Toronto just had a late season collapse. And if Hamilton was able to start a little bit of that mayhem for their rival, that'd be nice. So look out for a chippy game where Toronto gets the edge, maybe barely. And then the final game of the week, you have the Edmonton Elks traveling to Calgary to play the Stampeders. This is not the rivalry that it used to be. I mean, you look back at some of the teams we've seen where Edmonton's been good, Calgary's been good, Grey Cup contenders. the battle for Alberta has been special, and in this case, I think it still could be a very good year. Edmonton's been able to score a lot of points. They've allowed a lot of points defensively. I think Calgary's been in that same boat where they've had some games where they've given up a lot of points. So I expect there to be a high-scoring game in this one. And for both teams, they still have something to play for. Calgary is realistically more in the picture, as I think they sit at 4-6, whereas Edmonton, I believe, is 3-7. But Edmonton has been hot over the past 4 games. I think they've won 3 out of the last 4. They did lose last week, but still a team that you could go and see them score 35 points or more. They're dangerous. Of course, we know the return game can be special. We know the offense can get a lot of those points for them. And they play a Calgary team that can be hit or miss. And with the Stamps, they've lost 3 out of the last 4. And I'm pretty sure they were on the bye last week. My memory is so fuzzy right now. But with this one, you could say, well, Calgary's going to rebound from the bye, or at the same time, too, you could say Edmonton's going to ride the momentum and just be able to outscore the Stamps. And I think in this case, we're going to be backing the Elks to get the victory here and then make the playoff picture that more muddled. This has been a weird year in the standings, as out west, everybody's kind of within striking distance. Out east, really everybody besides Hamilton is as well. Why not make the picture even that much more difficult to make out? So I'm going to be picking Edmonton to get a W here. So for this week, I have the BC Lions, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the Toronto Argonauts, and then the Edmonton Elks. I don't know how often I'm able to remember all 4 of my picks at once, so you guys should be proud of me. But I want to know, what are your picks for this week in the CFL? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night.